Pete Carroll 1-0. 84% of the tickets were on the Broncos spread -6.5. 93% of the Broncos money line. Seahawks defeat the Broncos 17-16. This is why they call it betting.
Yeah, and that's one thing to always look out for, because every man, woman, and their dog was on the Broncos last night at -6.5, and then the line moved towards the Seahawks and it closed at 6, and that's always a red flag.
You're the head trader at PointsBet, and you've been doing that for 5 years. And you said every man, woman, and dog. Have you ever actually seen a dog place a bet?
I've seen a dog place a bet. Yeah, I've seen someone so discombobulated by their own gambling losses that they were like, they get their dog and just choose over or under on Javonte Williams rushing yards.
So that's just somebody forcing a dog to make a bet. I mean, I didn't know if because there's sometimes people, they get maxed out or they get limited, and so sometimes they're and so suddenly Spud Smith has entered, Barky Magoo, whatever.
I see where you're going.
Right. I didn't know if they had done that too as well. But I like the fact that you've seen dogs make bets or cats make bets. Fantastic. They take all comers at PointsBet. That is according to Jay Croucher and no one else associated with this program, just Jay. All right. Let's get into the fantasy analysis of this. I thought this game last night was good and bad on so many levels. On so many levels. Let's start with Russell Wilson, obviously. He's the headline. Coming back to Seattle, his former team, revenge game, #revenge game, all that narrative. I thought, here's the good. They let Russ cook.
Yep.
42 pass attempts, tied for the 9th most in his career, over 40. He finishes with 340 passing yards. He gets a touchdown there, as you see it there on your screen. But 1 passing touchdown, 0 interceptions. So I thought that was the good. The bad was they didn't run. He didn't run specifically. 1 rush for just 2 yards. The offense as a whole looked discombobulated. And when they got in close, one of the reasons Seattle got out of this game, with a win, is that both Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon at different times literally fumbled on the 1-yard line into the end zone. So on one hand, you're like, okay, so just so many fluky things happened for Seattle to win that game. One of which is that most, especially, Melvin Gordon has a fumbling issue, but between the two of them, one of those guys should have converted.
The Javonte Williams play as well, that was fluky because it was right at the end of the play clock. No one seemed to know what they were doing, and then immediately just gets tackled and stripped. So that was bad luck.
Once again, poor coaching. Didn't really kind of look ready for prime time. They didn't play together in the preseason, so maybe there's some kinks and rust in that. But they were handing off at the goal line.
Yeah.
They just paid Russell Wilson $250 million, and you're handing off at the goal line.
Well, they paid him $250 million, and they're not going for a 4th and 5 either. $250 million.
We can talk about the end of the game here in a second. But where are you on Russell Wilson as a fantasy quarterback after that game? He finishes as QB 14 for the week, 17.8 fantasy points.
I still think the most important thing is that he had 42 pass attempts, tied for the 9th most in his career versus only 20 rushing attempts for the Broncos. And that game, despite the fact they were always down, it was never out of hand. It was never that they had to pass the ball every single play. So I would read into that. I think the bad element is that he just didn't look very good out there.
Yeah.
And I know it's week 1. I know his stats, the volume stats, they look fine. Good passer rating, all of that. But he didn't really look that good out there. But for the Broncos, macro, what I'd look at is that they had to fumble twice at the 1-yard line and also had to completely botch an end-of-game situation to lose by 1 point on the road. They should have won the match. They should have won it pretty comfortably. So I wouldn't be too worried about Russell Wilson and the Broncos, particularly in a pretty weird and emotional spot week 1.
I think that's the big key here. He hasn't played all season. He's coming back to Seattle. He's actually getting booed. I think the first time he's in his life he's ever been booed.
Why is he getting booed?
Well, that's a whole thing. What are you doing, Seattle?
Come on.
He has bailed your ass out so many times, Seattle, and for you guys to boo him, I get it. Once the game starts and you want to create noise, I get that. But when he walks out on the field, that's a guy that brought you a Super Bowl title. That's a guy that has been so great for that community. He's everything you want in a football player, in terms of both production on the field and how he embraced the community and, all the goodwill he does. We joke a little bit about his aw shucks good boy nature, but that's him. He's genuinely a good human being. And so, Seattle, who, by the way, the 12th man is in Texas A&M, College Station. Seattle literally has to, I swear to God, this is true, Seattle has to pay a royalty to Texas A&M University because they stole the 12th man moniker. They stole it. They couldn't come up with anything original. Right? And so So these wannabe 12th mans are sitting there, you know, they have ripped off their identity from a college team and a college town. So they have a stolen identity, stolen valor, and you're booing Russell Wilson when he comes out of the game. Again, I get it. You want to boo him during the game and try to, you know, and try to help your team win. The Seahawks win, and they did a good job of that, by the way. I mean, there were some false starts. There were some delay of games on the Broncos as well. I mean, the crowd in Seattle did a good job during the game. Credit there. But come on, man. Like, what are you doing?
Not good. And also
bad look. And that's, by the way, you don't deserve to win, and yet you still won. Karmically, I was going to say that's why you didn't win, but you ended up winning the game.
Not quite the same thing. It'd be like Patriots fans booing Tom Brady. It's not on. But in terms of
before the game, that's my point.
Yes.
Before the game, when he walks out of the tunnel, come on. You don't want to cheer him fine. You don't want to cheer him fine. Don't boo him.
With the false starts that you mentioned, that was the thing that I noticed is that they were breaking the huddle with like 10, 12 seconds left every single play.
The whole offense was out of sync. It's clear. Like, they didn't play together in all the preseason. He's too good.
Yep.
Sutton and Judy are too good. Let's move on here. Javonte Williams, who a lot of people had as anyway, I think we both agree, just to put a bow on it, if you have Russell Wilson as your only fantasy quarterback, better days are ahead. Don't panic. I think it will be all right. Javonte Williams, 7 for 43, but 11 receptions for 65 yards. Had he scored on the goal line, which, again, we thought was a fluky play, he would have finished as the second-best running back in PPR, right? Ended up finishing as running back 12, which is around where he went. I think if you have Javonte Williams, you have to feel pretty good about the fact that he led all running backs in both targets and receptions in this game. He had more goal line carries than Melvin Gordon.
Yep.
The fact that he fumbled is not ideal, but I thought there was more positives than negatives for Javonte Williams in this game.
I would just be a little bit concerned that the game never really got out of hand with the score, and he still only had 7 rushing attempts. And every time he got the ball for a rushing play, he looked like Jonathan Taylor out there. Like, he was gashing that defense, and they still weren't giving him the heavy carries. Melvin Gordon out-rushes him in terms of attempts, 12-7, and with that, beats him in rushing yards as well. But the 11 receptions are the story.
That's the thing, and only 2 receptions for Melvin Gordon. So if you just look in terms of totality, you're looking at 19 touches to 14 for Melvin Gordon, which, by the way, is a split, which is, by the way, one of the reasons why I didn't have Javonte Williams as a top 10 running back. Melvin Gordon's going to be a thing. Like, I think what we saw there, and we could go through and look through. I haven't looked up the snaps here. Maybe Blake can keep me honest here. But my sense of just watching the game, 65-35 in favor of Javonte Williams, maybe 60-40, you know, somewhere in that range, which is, like, if you had to pick a Broncos running back to start, you're wanting Javonte Williams. But is Melvin Gordon usable as a flex most weeks? Probably.
Last night, the betting lines, they closed. Javonte Williams, his rushing total was 60.5. Melvin Gordon was 38.5. That's too big of a disparity. That's going to be closer, and I expect that they will bunch together as the season goes on. Now, the running back on the other side, Rashaad Penny, who, again, all he did was gash the Denver defense whenever he got an opportunity. But apparently Pete Carroll wouldn't give the chef's hat to Russell Wilson, but he's willing to give it to Geno Smith let Geno cook. Geno had 28 pass attempts in a game they led from the start, and they only ran the ball 19 times. I'm shocked by that. I would have expected it to be flipped. Even in the fourth quarter when they're burning clock, let's give it to Geno. Let him cook 3 plays in a row.
There's literally
very surprised.
There's not one coaching decision that happened last night that I went like, there you go.
Very strange.
Like, I don't think I know enough about NFL football to be a head coach. I don't. I genuinely don't. I don't. But then I watch games like that. I'm like, I could coach an NFL team.
Let's give the ball to the running back.
Yes. Hey, that guy who's doing good, keep doing that.
Very strange.
Very strange.
Because it's not like he was getting stuffed. He had a big run negated by a holding penalty as well. He looked like the Rashaad Penny from the last 6 weeks of last season. The best running back in the NFL wasn't Jonathan Taylor. It was Rashaad Penny. He was averaging over 6 yards per carry on insane volume, and he looked play-by-play the same guy.
He certainly did. He averaged 5 yards a carry in this particular game against a good Broncos defense, right? He had 12 carries, 60 yards. He broke off that 26-yarder. Look good. To your point, he also had the
holding penalty brings it back.
The holding penalty brings it back. This guy, you know, he's proven himself. He's a former first-round pick. Kenneth Walker was scratched before the game. But listen, they like Travis Homer on third down. He was in on all third down plays. So that's going to limit Penny's upside when Kenneth Walker comes back. I think that's going to limit it as well. We're going to get to waivers later in the show. Kenneth Walker, if he's out there in your league, is somebody that I think you can stash because talking to people around Seattle, they're very excited about Kenneth Walker. No disrespect to Rashaad Penny, but I do think that's going to be a little bit more of a committee. So something to think about there. So good and bad for Rashaad Penny. Let's talk about Geno Smith and DK Metcalf. In terms of DK Metcalf, here was the positives: 7 targets, 7 receptions, both team highs. Bad, 36 receiving yards in a game in which Geno looked good and they led and they were they were moving the ball effectively. Does Geno Smith's performance last night, where he was competent? Let's be clear. He was competent. By the way, and Geno Smith with one of the all-time great post-game quotes.
Amazing.
Right?
Yeah.
They wrote me off, but I didn't write back.
I didn't write back.
Straight fire from Geno Smith.
Print the T-shirts now.
Absolutely. That is a meme. I mean, I posted it on my Instagram as well. At Matthew Berry TMR, if you'd like to give me a follow. Straight fire. Great quote.
Yes.
Right. I'm going to use that in my real life. You know what I mean? ESPN wrote me off, but I didn't write back. You know what I mean? When NBC gets tired of me, which is probably about 20 minutes from now, NBC wrote me off, but I didn't write back. I'm just telling you, that was a fire quote from Geno.
Was
Geno Smith good enough? Sorry, go on. What are you going to say?
I was going to say, do you know the 2 highest rated quarterbacks by PFF were this week?
No.
Josh Allen and Geno Smith. It wasn't just that he was an incredible completion percentage. He has the broken play to Will Dissly where he really should have been sacked. He was just throw by throw really good.
He was.
And they get the Metcalf fumble, destroys one drive. But look, I think Geno, I didn't think he had that game in him all season. And the fact that he did, that shows that Metcalf, Lockett to a lesser extent, they might have more of a ceiling than you would anticipate. And to the contrary, Rashaad Penny, perhaps a lower floor than you'd anticipate. But I think Metcalf is clearly the guy that you want. 8 guys saw at least 2 targets last night. Metcalf was the only guy with more than 4, and he had 7. So I think DK Metcalf is clearly the focal point of the passing game.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, that was how they were ranked in the preseason as well for me in terms of in terms of the pass catchers. We think DK has a lot more touchdown equity and potential upside there. I think he's just a better player. And I like Tyler Lockett. Tyler Lockett is a good wide receiver, but DK is special, right? Yep. And so bad fumble there. But I think the positives, I'm not rushing the waiver wire to pick up Geno Smith. If you lost Dak Prescott, I think there are better options out there. But I thought, to your point, he was competent enough to keep this offense afloat. Denver's a good defense. Yep. And that's an emotional game. It's his first start in a long time. I mean, he started a few games last year when Russell was out, but it's his first start as the guy. He won this job in training camp. They come into the season saying, we're not training for Garoppolo. We're not trying to get anyone else. This is Geno Smith's team this year. And so he comes into this game, and here comes Russell Wilson. Here comes number 3, and it's a big emotional game. You see it right there. They wrote me off. I didn't write back, though. Geno Smith on people doubting him. Just an absolute fire quote and a big-time performance from him, NFL-wise, in a game in which all eyes were on Russell Wilson. It could be... I can get where that would sort of freak you out a little bit. You see across the way, that's the guy you shared a locker room for a number of years. By the way, over his last 9 starts, Geno 9-0 against the spread. There you go.
There he is.
There he is.
The gambling man.
Yeah, exactly. Geno ATS. I want to give a real quick shout out to Evan Silva, our friend Evan Silva from Establish the Run, a rotoworld.com alumnus. And Evan pointed out in his column this week that he thought Will Dissly was a nice sleeper in especially in one-game slates. He talked about the fact how Dissly was signed to a big contract. He's a better blocker than Noah Fant, all of which is factually correct. What do you know? It was a broken play, but still Dissly gets into the end zone. Shout out to Evan. Great call by him. But more importantly, is Will Dissly, this is somebody who had fantasy success at one point in his career. Now, it's been a few years. But I still have Will Dissly on a deep Dynasty League team because I've always sort of believed in his talent. He's had some bad injuries over the years, but is Dissly potentially on the radar? And I think he is. If you're in a deep, tight end premium league, if you're in one of Michael Smith's crazy 20-team leagues,
yeah, why not?
Could Will Dissly become a thing this year?
He got the snaps. I'm not sure he's going to become a capital T thing, Will Dissly, but he might be a lowercase t thing. And I think... Look, there's not necessarily more certainty in that situation, but on the other side, the Broncos played about 15 tight ends last night. We were still able to get our Albert over bet home with the receiving yards, but I'd be a little bit concerned about that situation where, I think we both liked Albert O as a deeper tight end in the preseason. And look, he got his snaps towards the end, but they were playing a lot of tight ends. Was there anything else that stood out from Monday night in terms of Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, any of those guys?
No, Jeudy scores the touchdown. I'm still not as bullish on him. Like, it was great run after the catch right there with Jeudy. But I feel like, again, I'm still Sutton over Jeudy if I'm sitting there looking for the Denver pass catchers there. Sort of interesting there. Albert over gets there, but a lot of tight end usage just spread it around quite a bit. That was one of the other concerns. Andrew Beck gets 3 targets there, right? Andrew Beck suddenly was sort of interesting there. One last note on terms of the in terms of the running back usage. I was right. So Damien texts me here and says 58% snaps for Javonte, 40% for Melvin Gordon. So literally like a 60-40 split. The other 2%, Mike Boone, who gets in there for a couple of carries, a couple of touches, I should say. But I don't know. The only thing on Geno, and this will be interesting to see. So Denver dominated time possession in this particular game.
Yep.
So, they were Seattle was, when they didn't have the long play from Disley, it was quick. To your point, they passed a lot more than I think people thought here. I don't know that that's always the case, right? So I do think there's a bit of they got more people involved than I thought they would. Geno was sort of spreading it around. Colby Parkinson got a couple of targets, right? Marquise Goodwin showed up there. D. Eskridge was on the field.
Yes.
We got a D. Eskridge signing.
A lot of famous names there. Marquise Goodwin.
I'm just saying, it didn't feel like previous Seattle offenses where it was Lockett and Metcalf and Lockett, and that was it. Noah Fant, by the way, just 4 targets on that one. Will Disley got 3, and he was the better fantasy option last night, so something to watch going forward. I would be nervous if I had Noah Fant as my only fantasy tight end this year.
Definitely.
Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBC Sports and RotoWorld.com. Just want to thank you so much for watching what you just watched, or at least being too lazy to click out of it after the autoplay just kept it going. So either way, thank you so much for just letting it scroll by your screen. And now I'd like to ask you respectfully, please subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel for the latest NFL news, fantasy headlines from RotoWorld, and betting analysis from NBC Sports Edge.